So, like I said, I had this personal motivation of watching my daughter interact with software and saying, actually, this could be better than this. I wonder how well I could do. So I bought myself a laptop for Christmas and then sat there on January the 1st with that what now mindset. And my first point was a free computer science video course from Stanford University. I think it's called CS193. It gets updated periodically, so I think it's still a quality resource. And it started me off quite well on the theoretical fundamentals, but I was still hitting roadblocks when I came to actually making things. It sounded wonderful in the lecture, but I needed something more practical. And then I went to Udemy and I enrolled on the Angela Yu course at Udemy. So this is a paid for course, but it's very cheap. So if you get it in the sales, I think I paid like £20 for 80 hours of content. And 80 hours is obviously more than 80 hours because you watch each lecture more than once. So, the value was very good there. And that course was great for being very practical about the tools. So it was like download this tool and download this little piece of like helper software. And then, here's your sample project. And this is how you go on to, open weather API and get the key and all of that detail stuff that actually puts you in a position to be making stuff. And at that point, my confidence was built up to the fact that I could do something. I came across a group called Mums Can Code, and in the end, that ended up evolving into being a boot camp of its own. But that wasn't the part that I was involved in. I was involved in the peer support part of it. And that, I guess, was my first entry into sitting on a Zoom call with other women who happen to be coders and talking it through. And the highlight of my time with them was leading a team at a virtual hackathon that they did, which was a weekend that we all punched out of our diaries and, hacked. And that really opened my eyes to what was actually involved in making a tech project. So I'd walked in quite naively thinking that the challenge was going to be to learn to code. And what very quickly opened up to me is that there's this whole range of skills that goes into it, into the UX, into the design, into all that thinking and the collaboration and the brainstorming and the project management that's all involved in tech. And I think that hackathon working with the group of women on a project, it was good fun, but it also matured my understanding as to, what is it to be in tech. I got the hackathon bug. I did some in-person hackathons. I think it was also a female-focused hackathon. It was called Founders something. It was a London place. I think it was called Future Founders in London. And then I came across an advert for the Apple Entrepreneur Camp, which is a program which invites people from underrepresented. It invites founders from underrepresented communities to spend some time in Cupertino. So I was in the second cohort. So at that time, it was specifically targeted towards women. And the idea was that you went for 2 weeks to Cupertino and you got code level support and that direct mentoring to help you make a go of your startup. So by this point, my hook of, I wonder if I can do better than this, had actually crystallized into setting up my own startup, which I called Salt for My Squid, which is what I pitched to Apple, very much focused around making delightful lifestyle apps for autistic kids. And that was obviously something that Apple found appealing. Most of the people there, they were at a much more advanced stage than me in their company journey. And that was tremendously inspiring. Again, it completely leveled up my aspirations and my understanding of what could be achieved from like a year previous to that. I wonder if I can get this to compile, to look at these guys with a dozen people in New York City running this fabulous company. It really opened up the horizons for me. And it was an amazing experience. So I had the 2 weeks in Cupertino at the camp. then the prize included a week at the Worldwide Developer Conference, where again I got to reconnect with the people that I'd met at the camp, and then it's carried on as a network where we stay in touch and we chat. And it's it is inspiring to see other people's journeys, and it anchors you in understanding more clearly what you're trying to do, and also normalizing the things that you struggle with. And when I look back, I'm not sure why the word women's comes up as a pattern through this, because most of my career I've worked in women minority places, and I wouldn't say it's something that bothers me. But I guess there's something about it that's like an invitation. I guess it's something about that you know it's you that they're looking for, and you're not going to be kind of bending yourself into a pretzel or feeling slightly awkward. And when I look back, you know, I wonder why I didn't go to a hackathon before I came across one that was branded as a women's hackathon, but I didn't. I turned up to the one that I felt invited to. I have to mention another one, which is my current squad of ladies. It's called Ladies of Code London. And it was something I came across during the pandemic. And what it normally is, it's a London meetup group. And during the pandemic, they went online. And I was at a little bit of a dip where I was feeling a little bit isolated in terms of not having people to bounce code with. And so I just turned up. And it's the club is called Get On With It. And the idea is that you bring your side project to it. It's on a Sunday afternoon. You turn up at 4 o'clock. You set your intention, what you're going to do. You have a tea break after an hour and a half, where you tell people how you've done, and then you have a closing checkout. And so it's like 3 hours on a Sunday afternoon where you get on with it. And it's, I mean, again, I don't know why I need to be told to get on with it, but there is a certain power of accountability and community to having those faces looking back at you, especially with that weekly rhythm. So I've slightly fallen out of that rhythm now that I'm working at Marks and Spencer's, because my Sundays, I'm not coding my Sundays. I'm going getting some sunshine on my face. But for a while it was great, because you would see people's projects progressing, and people had their own personal ambitions and their own personal blockers. And we just have that little soft check-in, you know, how are you doing? What are you going to do? How did it go? And there's a power in that. I don't understand why, but there is a power in having, you know, a screen full of faces.